Alrighty. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is why the heck do people end up getting hurt in the gym, right? Now, one of the biggest reasons, and we all know this, is that technique is going to play a role, all right? And recently in the world of physical therapy, we've gotten this idea that there are no bad exercises, right? And to a point, I can agree with this, but I think it's really important for you to understand as a coach is that the technique that you try to adapt is going to alter the type of stress throughout the body, right? And I think what happens is if you have too much stress in any particular area, that's where we run into some problems, all right? So maybe there's not a perfect squat variation or a perfect deadlift technique, all right? But if we alter our technique, that's going to alter the stress. And if there's too much stress with a lack of preparation, sometimes that equates to an injury, all right? The other point is that certain areas of the body are probably better at handling stress than others, right? So let's say if you round your back a whole bunch in a deadlift, we go into, we call it lumbar flexion, that's going to increase the stress on the spine. If we were to keep the body in a more neutral alignment, it's probably not going to stress the spine as much, at least specific areas of the spine. We'll talk about that in a minute. Same thing goes for arching your back when you're pressing something overhead. So if you extend your spine and press something overhead, we're going to increase some of the stress on the back side of the spine. If we stayed in a more neutral position, we wouldn't stress the back side of the spine as much, right? What's interesting is that the body can build tolerance to positions over the course of time and training. Our bodies are highly adaptable. And that's, I think, why this notion of there are no bad exercises has come about, just poorly prepared positions. So if you really prepare a specific position a lot, like rounding your back a lot in a deadlift, and you do this over the course of years and you progressively load it, then your back probably will adapt to that pretty well, depending on the person, right? And this is probably one of the reasons why one person can get away with quote unquote bad technique their entire lives and never suffer an injury. They basically prepare that position really, really well so that they never end up getting hurt, all right? In my eyes, what we're trying to do is find the technique that allows for your best performance for given goals and provides long-term health for you, all right? So if you want to be an Olympic weightlifter, you probably have to squat very upright. Very upright squats are going to stress your knees a bit more. If you have a history of knee problems, then you may have to actually change your squat technique just because of your history of knee pain, okay? And that's just one example of how you're going to have to vary your technique over the course of time based on the individual. Alrighty? So, why do we get hurt? Technique, again, can be one of these reasons. And I want to pick out a few areas that is talked about a lot in terms of injuries and injury prevention, but I don't think it's fully understood. All right? So, if I flex my spine a lot in a deadlift, this is actually a picture of me. This was about 10, maybe 12 years ago right now. I was deadlifting. It's one of my first times I've deadlifted 500 pounds, and I think I did this for 2, and I was going for 3. As soon as I pull the weight off the floor, my back rounds a whole lot, and you can see this, right? So why is this potentially a bad thing? Well, if you round your back a lot under load, like I'm doing right here in a deadlift, it increases stress on the intervertebral discs within our spine. And if we put too much stress on those discs over the course of time without preparing them adequately, sometimes we run into problems in the discs. Sometimes you get injured, okay? Same thing goes when we go the opposite direction. Let's say I'm pressing overhead and I have poor shoulder mobility. So I hyperextend at the lower back in the lumbar spine. If I hyperextend in the lower back, in the lumbar spine, this is going to increase stress on the posterior or backside elements of the spine, right? Plain and simple. So I increase stress on those structures being compressed together when I press with a lot of lumbar extension, right? Too much stress over the course of time maybe causes a problem. If I were to keep my spine in a more neutral position when I'm deadlifting and when I'm pressing overhead, I just alter the stress. I'm no longer stressing the discs as much, or I'm no longer stressing the backside of the spine, the posterior elements of the spine as much, okay? So you can see if I keep a neutral spine, that might be less total stress in specific parts of the spine and keeps myself a little safer over the course of time.